Hi, I'm Blair Gilbert from MrHardware.com and Gilbert's Pro Hardware in St. Clair Shores, here to give you more details on the ramp that I made for the back of my pontoon boat. I took some 1-inch PVC and I heated it and bent it and put some floaties on it. I put some pet-proof screen on it and I put a boat cushion on it. Then on my boat, I bent some 1-inch by 1/4-inch thick aluminum and I pop riveted to the boat. Those are my hangers. And I put the ramp, hang on little thing, hang on, look. And these two little pins, made out of plastic faucet supply lines, hold the ramp to the back of the boat. I put a little metal grid at the very end. You can take and get your dog in and out of the water. So here's the dog ramp. And what I did is I took some 1/4-inch by 1-inch wide aluminum bar stock, available at any hardware store, probably for about $20 for a 6-foot piece of it. I made it so it went into the ramp, bent it so it could go up to the bottom of the boat, which you can see here. These are the aluminum brackets that I bent and pop riveted to the bottom of the pontoon boat. And they stick out just enough that I can fit the rack on them without being an interference to my friends or other people in the water when the ramp isn't attached. You can drill, tap, bend. You don't need heat or fancy processes to do this, but you do need a vise though. And you can see how easy. So when this goes up to the boat, it fits in like that. When I drill the hole to the aluminum, I drill it oversized, and I used a supply line as my keeper pin. I could just drop the keeper pin in, so my ram could wiggle in the waves, and the dog could bend it, and it wouldn't hurt anything. So that's the bracket that attaches to the boat. I took and drilled holes, and I pop riveted with 3/16 pop rivets this into the bottom of my pontoon boat. Now your attachment's going to vary depending on what you're doing. Here's the bottom side of the ramp. This material here happens to be pet-proof screen. It is extremely durable screen. It does not cut easy. If this was not good screen, this would be all tore up by now. At the very back, at the last spot, as the dog comes up the ramp to jump in the boat, the screen was a little bit trampoline-y. So I took a piece of wire shelving and fit it in here so the last step when the dog hops up in the boat is more firm. The structure is made out of 1-inch simple PVC. I bent it. I needed 10 feet wasn't long enough to make the full length of this ramp. Every ramp's going to be custom to suit your boat, your dog. I make it so it stores on the boat. It's more important than anything. So I got an area it fits. I made it that length. It's not in my way. 10 feet wasn't enough. I had to put a coupling. I chose to put the coupling up here in the center. The sides are one continuous piece to the bend and then another continuous piece to the bend. I'm going to make another rack like this. So I want to bend PVC in a radius like this, which happens to be the radius of a paint can. So I'm going to take the PVC, I'm going to heat it up, I'm going to bend it around this can. I marked the PVC a little bit long of both the points of my bend, and I've got a high-powered heat gun. This is not no hair dryer. This is the bad boy of heat guns. The badder it is, the faster it bends. Here we go. I'm rotating this pipe just a little bit on every bend to not stay in one spot too long so that the whole pipe gets very evenly heated. There it goes. There it is, 2 minutes. Now as I bend it, we don't want it too tight because we can actually crush the PVC. I had that spacer here, so the plywood didn't canter. So when I screwed it down, so we want the plywood attached just enough so it holding it to keep our shape and not crush it. So we'll give it a second to harden up here. Now here's the proof of the pudding. There's the bend. Beautiful. Strong. That's why I don't, when I was making the boat ramp for the dog, the bending of the PVC is much stronger than putting a 90 in there. A trick I learned, as opposed to cutting the PVC to put in a T, which make this a weak point, I wanted to keep this a solid piece. I took the T and I cut it in half. Put the T, put a couple keeper screws into the T, and voila, I have a spreader. I have a spreader, 2 at the top to hold my shelf, 1 spreader way down here, and then up here at the top, these T's, after I installed them, you can see I took my heat gun, I heated them and bent them to make them a little bit more oval. So these 3 spreaders hold it apart. To add buoyancy, I took some noodles, some plastic strapping, and I attached noodles to make it more buoyant, and then I stretched the screen, the pet-proof screen around, and using tiny screws, number 4 screws, and a little pilot drill, I stretched the screen inch by inch and secured it to the pipe. So by starting at one end, first you do one side in a straight line. Then when you do the other side, you're stretching it and putting in keeper screws. When you stretch it just 1 inch at a time, you can get it quite tight without a lot of skill. And then lastly, at the top, when the dog came up the ramp, it was slippery. I put this 1 boat cushion to add more buoyancy, and the dog, as you'll see in the dog video, climbs over this and uses this to propel themselves into the boat. So the cushion was added as an afterthought, but it's working perfect for what I want to do.